Have you ever looked at what you eat and thought, I eat pretty healthy, so why don't I feel better? Or maybe it shows up in a different way. Have you ever woken up tired for no clear reason, or stiff, achy, or inflamed when you didn't do anything unusual the day before? And this is one that's going to hit home for a lot of you, especially if you are one of our patients. Maybe your body just feels off and you can't quite explain why. And you start wondering, what is going on? Maybe you're eating more protein. You've cut back on processed foods. You're buying organic when you can. Maybe you've stopped eating gluten or dairy or sugar. Maybe you've tried fasting. Maybe you've followed a diet that completely changed somebody else's life and you're genuinely trying, but you're still tired. You're still bloated. Your digestion still feels off. Your energy is inconsistent. Your weight just isn't responding the way you expected. Or maybe you just don't feel as good as you think you should feel for someone who is doing all the right things. And we say right things, right? Because obviously they're not right for you, not all of them. And that can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you're trying to come back to your health. Welcome to the Longevity Path with Dr. Ava, where we empower you to take back control of your health by combining ancient wisdom and modern regenerative medicine. Last week, we talked about what happens when you spent so much time taking care of everyone else, so much so that you don't even know where to begin taking care of yourself. And I asked you to start with something very simple, and that is pay attention. What has your body been trying to tell you? This week, I want to take that question into an area where there is so much confusion. Food. I know, don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger, as Wes would say when it comes to the scans. Because one of the first things we tend to do when we decide to work on our health is change the way we eat, hopefully. And that makes sense because food does matter a lot more than you realize. But then you start trying to figure out what healthy eating actually means. And suddenly everybody has an opinion. And guess what? These are all opinions. Eat more protein. Don't eat too much protein. Eat meat. Don't eat meat. Carnivore. Don't carnivore. Keto. Don't keto. Eat breakfast. Skip breakfast. Fast. Don't fast. Carbs are the problem. No, carbohydrates are essential. Dairy is terrible. No, dairy is nutritious. And fun fact here, we're the only mammals that after weaning still consume milk. That tells you anything. Eat raw vegetables. No, cook your vegetables. And somewhere in all of this, I think we've lost an important question. I know that was a lot of information, but how do you actually feel? Not what is everybody on the internet eating? Not what diet is trending, not what worked for your friend. What patterns are happening in your body? Because we don't believe health should be approached as though every person standing in front of us is exactly the same. Because guess what? You're not. And Chinese medicine has deeply influenced that way of thinking for me, which is why I try and share it with all of our patients, with all of you out there that are struggling in this area. In Chinese medicine, we're looking at patterns. We are looking at the whole person. Two people can walk into a clinic complaining about what sounds like the same problem. And when we start asking questions, we may find very different patterns underneath it. That changes how we think about supporting them. So food can be approached with that same curiosity. And I want to be very clear about something. I'm not saying there are no basic nutritional principles, and I'm definitely not saying every uncomfortable sensation after eating means you have a food sensitivity, though it is an indicator that your body is responding to the food you just ate. I don't want you becoming afraid of food, but you should at least be conscious of it. I don't want you analyzing every bite and convincing yourself that everything is causing inflammation. Because guess what? In Chinese medicine, we incorporate mindset and spirit. And if you think it, then it may be. So that can become its own unhealthy relationship with food. So what I'm saying is that your experience matters. Maybe you've been eating something every morning because somebody told you it was the healthiest breakfast possible. But every morning you feel uncomfortable afterward. That is definitely worth noticing. It doesn't automatically mean the food is bad. It gives us information to explore. Maybe you skip breakfast because fasting works beautifully for your friend. But by the afternoon, you're exhausted, irritable, starving, and grabbing whatever is available. I've had those days too. That's information. Maybe you're eating an extremely restrictive diet because you've been trying to solve bloating for 3 years. And guess what? When asked, some patients don't even realize they get bloated. But now you're afraid to add anything back because you don't know what is actually bothering you. That is something we need to talk about because there's a difference between becoming aware of your body and becoming afraid of your body. I want for you awareness, curiosity, patterns. From a modern physiology perspective, how we feel around food can involve many different factors. Digestion, meal composition, meal timing, your metabolic health, stress, sleep, activity, medications, underlying health conditions, the amount we're eating, even the circumstances in which we're eating. Food is part of a much larger picture, so big that it deserves some focus. That's why I hesitate when people want one food to explain everything or one diet to fix everything, because human physiology is more complicated than that. And this is also why when we're looking at food-related patterns at AcYou Health, the food fit assessment can be one of the most invaluable tools that we use. And the reason I like the concept of food fit is actually in the name. It's fit, not good food versus bad food, not here is the perfect diet everybody should follow. We're just trying to gather another piece of information about the individual. The food fit assessment is designed as a starting point for exploring food-related stressors, inflammation, patterns, metabolic roadblocks, and wellness imbalances. But I want to emphasize something important. An assessment is information. It is not your entire health story. It does not replace paying attention to your symptoms. It does not replace your medical history. And it does not replace looking at sleep, stress, digestion, movement, metabolic health, or everything else happening in your life. It just gives us another piece of the puzzle. And I think that distinction matters because people are exhausted from being handed another list. Don't eat this. Don't eat that. This is toxic. There are microplastics. There is mercury in there. There's lead in there. That causes inflammation. This food is perfect. This diet will fix you. That isn't the relationship with food I want for you. We want you to understand your body better. And there are things you can start doing before you ever take an assessment. For the next week, pay attention to 3 things. First, and these are big things for Wes when he does the food fit assessments, but how do you feel before you eat? Are you actually hungry? Are you starving because you haven't eaten all day? Are you stressed? Are you rushing? This is huge. So that's the first. Those are the first things to pay attention to before eating. Second, how do you feel after you eat? Not 30 seconds after. Pay attention over time. Your energy, your digestion, your fullness, your comfort, your cravings. Okay, make sure you're writing these things down. Just the three main concepts. And third, look for repetition. One experience is interesting, a pattern is more useful. You might even write a few notes in your phone. Nothing obsessive. Meal, time, how I felt, that's enough. Because remember what we're doing this month. We're coming back to you. This is your fuel. This is what keeps you going. It deserves some attention. You deserve the attention. So last week, that meant noticing yourself again. This week, it means listening more closely. And maybe what you discover is that food isn't actually the biggest issue. That's useful too. Maybe you realize you feel terrible because you're sleeping 5 hours a night. You're having too many cold beverages that are cooling down your stomach. Maybe you notice that your digestion changes dramatically when you're stressed. And maybe you realize you're not eating enough during the day and then you're ravenous at night. Now we're looking for patterns. Don't try to make excuses. Objectively observe what's happening in your body and make the correlations to the patterns. Maybe you discover a food pattern you want to investigate further. All of this is just information, and none of it requires you to judge yourself. And we're not judging you because guess what? We're human and we make poor choices when it comes to food too. Your body isn't giving you a grade. We're not giving you a grade. These are all just clues. The goal isn't to become perfect at eating. The goal is to understand yourself well enough that your health decisions become more intentional. So if you've been eating healthy and wondering why you still don't feel the way you want to feel, don't immediately assume you need an even stricter diet. Start with curiosity. What happens when I eat? How do I feel? What keeps repeating? Because sometimes, guess what? You can have an enzyme deficiency. It could be as simple as that. But if you want another piece of information to help you explore those patterns, the Food Fit Assessment is one of the tools we use at AcYou Health, and it is so invaluable. It's not like an awful scratch for allergies. We just run our bioscan based on your information, and you get some of the foods that may be causing you a little bit of inflammation or discomfort, or maybe you're just not digesting at all. But whether you do an assessment or not, I want you to do something this week. Listen, because honestly, you can do a food journal and get this information for yourself. But we are always here to support you however you need. But by listening, the more you understand your own patterns, the less dependent you become on somebody else's definition of the perfect way to eat. Because guess what? It's not going to be perfect for you. Next week, we're going to take everything we've been noticing and turn it into action, because there's a lot of talk, but how do we implement? We're going to talk about it next week. So not 20 new habits, not an overnight health transformation. We're going to talk about how to start taking care of your body in ways that are actually doable when you already have a full life. But for now, ask yourself, what has the way I eat been trying to teach me about my body? Comment below and let us know. Personally, I've been eating too much dairy, and I notice that I get more puffiness in my face. This is the kidney area, more dairy and more sweets. And just 3 days of cutting back, it has drastically improved. If that tells you the impact that food has on your body and your overall health. Sometimes it starts this small, but your body is communicating. So until next time, stay grounded, stay consistent, and build health that supports your life, not just your symptoms.